ran to get back here to be here for you guys. So I am, Miranda, can you, you know what, I'm going to share my screen. Did you make any changes to the PowerPoint since I sent it to you? Okay, then I will be good to go. Just give me 1 second and let me get the PowerPoint
And
started.
I'll be glad to talk about some of the benefits, Misha, if you want to start sharing it and so they can kind of see that. But yeah, I was just telling the group if they've used the form generator online that's been out there for a couple months, then they are well ahead of the game. But so one of the benefits of the new system is that the form will be electronic. And so part of that, the benefits for that is that clearly when people write, it's oftentimes very illegible. And so having the form created online will be able to be more legible for our staff, and that saves time, because I can tell you from the ones I did yesterday, like just trying to read people's handwriting, and is that deciphering, is that an A or is that an O? I mean, oftentimes that is a little difficult. So having it online will make things more legible, and thus ensuring more accurate results. Another part of it is making sure that mandatory information is filled out. We oftentimes get reports or get requests in the paper forms that don't have people's last names, or it doesn't have their date of birth. They just may write down 111. They don't have a year. So oftentimes we have to reject those requests and send those back to the requester for them to fill it out. And then you would be astonished with the number of that forms that come in that aren't notarized. So by having the electronic form, we hope to really see the benefits of having accurate information and all the information we need to be able to run the background check.
Okay, so Marina, I see that Brenda Richard's already asking for the PowerPoint. So I have no problem sharing the PowerPoint, but as we go through this, all the information is actually probably in an easier way to follow online. And I'll show you that here in a minute. So all these instructions are probably in an easier to follow way online. If you'll just Google Arkansas child maltreatment, it'll take us to the DHS page, which goes step by step in the process that we're going to walk through. It's just some of us like to learn by seeing and asking questions, and so we wanted to give you guys this opportunity. I hear some. Let me mute somebody. I hear a lot of participants. No, I'm sure y'all are. Ashlyn, do you see that? Here we go. Here, I'll just mute this person. I like when they make me the host so I can just take over. I do that pretty regularly. Okay. But I still hear somebody, so I'm not seeing anybody.
I got someone, Misha. I muted someone.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Marina, again, thanks for getting started. Hey, so I'd like for you guys, because as we've been talking about this new central registry process and going electronic, it's really two steps like Miranda had talked about. One is using the online form generator. And then the second step is, which is new, is electronically submitting the request. So we'll go through both steps. But if you've been using the online form generator, because it's been out there since July, can you put something in the chat like, yes, I'm using it, I love it, yes, I'm using it, I hate it, yes, we're working through problems. Give me some feedback in the chat about the online generator if you've been using it since July, because it really is the first step. And yes, it works well. Okay, great. I'm gonna keep moving forward, but I'm gonna be reading your responses, and I'm sure Miranda will be doing, and Miranda can help me if she sees something she really wants to share. So please feel free to Miranda to interrupt, and I'll keep going through the PowerPoint. But it also helped me as we're going through the presentation to understand where you guys are as far as the online generator and not waste too much of your time. So you can see here, 2 steps. So we're going to create a form. Now, I'm sure all of you are like, why is she still making us create a paper form? Well, because the law requires that they be notarized. And so maybe at some point we'll be able to do away with the paper form. But until the law changes, the applicant has to have a notarized form, which means that it has to be paper. But like Miranda said, we had issues with handwriting, and not just handwriting, people not filling out all the proper forms. So then they got sent back to fill out the necessary information. And with this online form generator, it requires you to fill out certain fields that are mandatory to get a central registry check. And the new thing that we're talking about today that's already active and live, some of you have probably already used it, because I'm not looking at the full participant list right now, I will in a minute, but I've seen CYS has already done some electronic submissions, so feel free in the chat if you've used the electronic submission to give me some feedback and tell me how that's going. But that's the second step of how do you submit the form electronically and make payment if you're required to make payment. So here we go. Oh, you can only see the early childhood slide. Miranda, are you seeing the correct slide? Are you seeing I'm on Central Registry Form Generator.
I can see I can see the correct slide, yes.
Okay. I'm not sure why somebody's reporting there. You can only see the early childhood slide. I'm not sure what's going on with there. If somebody else will chime in on the chat if you're having issues. But moving into more on the Central Registry Form Generator. Again, I'll share this PowerPoint, but the instructions are on our website. And on this PowerPoint, the links are live. So when you get the PowerPoint, if you're having trouble finding the site, you can link right here to the Central Registry Form Generator. It will take you to how to create a form. What you'll see is this information right here, Arkansas Child Maltreatment Central Registry Form Generator. Now, I really wanted to show you the two, because we've had issues, and I think we discussed it on a previous provider call. There are two types that you guys might fall into, because on this call, I'm not looking at the participant list, but I believe who DCC invited includes emergency shelters, qualified residential treatment programs, other residential license, previously called group homes, PRTFs, and there's some miscellaneous others. Oh, so therapeutic foster care, specialized private license placement agency. So it's very important when I say you today, I'm gonna mean provider. And when I say applicant, I'm going to mean the person who needs a child maltreatment registry check. So that's probably your employee, or it could be your foster parent, depending on what type of license you have. So you is provider, applicant is person needing child maltreatment registry form. So for this online form generator, you have a couple of options. You can sit down with the applicant and help them fill out this online form. And so it's very important that at the top of the page, you or the applicant select one of these two choices. You are potential or current employee of a child care facility or residential facility. So residential facility, again, can mean emergency shelter, QRTP, PRTF, residential license of some other sort, like that doesn't take placements from DCFS, like I'll call it Soaring Wings. I saw Jason on, like, Jason, this would be your employees. You would click this button, and when I say you, again, provider, or the applicant can select it. If you're a specialized private license placement agency and you're working with your employees or with your potential foster parents, you're going to click the second one, which is you are a potential foster parent for a private organization, including TFC. It's very important that you click the right radio button, because what information is then required to do the check and where the results go depends on clicking. So like maybe you don't like one or three and you want to go with other, which is an option. Don't do that, because if you choose other, the results will not go to licensing to DCC ECE. So if you pick one of these, the results will go to what information you provide, as well as to DCC ECE, which is really important for your licensing requirements. Okay, moving on. So once you, here we go. Oh, let me go to the page. Let me just go ahead and show you. So here is the page. Well, let me stop sharing and share back. Here we go. Here's the actual page, just to give you what the page looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and walk through. The cool thing I'm going to pick, you are a potential foster parent of a private organization. So you would fill out, actually, I'm going to do a facility because I've previously done, an example. So let me pick a facility here. You are a potential facility. Note that it's picking some options that I've previously filled out. So like if I'm putting in the facility name, Piney Ridge. If you chose the other radio button, it wouldn't ask. Now note the asterisk here. If the asterisk is here, it is a mandatory and required field. If the asterisk is not there, it is not a mandatory field. If you, the provider, ask the applicant to fill out this form without your assistance, you're going to need to make sure that the applicant has the facility name that you want to use. I'm just putting in some pre-populated stuff from when I've done an example. Again, licensing specialist, licensing county, nice to have, not required. the applicant or you who's filling out that form with the applicant will need your facility number. I just made up a facility number. So again, it may be easier. What we found from applicants is that it may be easier if you are doing HR or working with a potential foster parent, that they come into the office and you do this together with them. But again, absolutely not required. I'm just going to pick some random birthdates here. See it pre-populated from when I previously filled out. You have to put in the addresses, just like on the, I'm going to say no additional addresses, but if I said one additional address, it would ask me to continue to fill out addresses, but I'm going to do no additional. And then it asks you to list any children previously in your home. I'm going to go with no, so I don't have to fill out. But if I said yes, you would have to add children, but I'm going to say no. Now, what's really important here is whatever email address that you put on this form right here, the second email address, that is where this form is going to email to. Miranda, you're saying no. What's wrong?
Well, that's what we added here recently. I think the first primary one is the one that you down below. The second one is just if that email address, the one that's right there, I'm sorry, in the screen, you're right scrolling fast. Yes. No, the first one, the one to the left.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, yes. Miranda. Like I was like not saying this. Okay. So thank you, Miranda. This is a new feature as of like 2 days ago because, and I'm glad that Miranda, thank you so much for calling this out, because it was actually providers like you all that said, hey, we really need a second email option. So thank you so much, Miranda. So email number 1, all this information is going to come together and email a form. What we heard from providers is that sometimes the applicant puts their own email address in and then doesn't have a way to print out the form, or isn't at the office when you guys are doing maybe a hire packet or whatever. So we really wanted the form to go 2 places. So there is a second, though not mandatory, a second email option. So if you want to put your HR person or maybe your case manager who's working with a potential foster parent, you want to put a second, you or the applicant want to put a second email address in, the form will go 2 places. Now remember, that's important because once you get that form, you have to print it out and the applicant has to notarize it. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint now. Miranda, am I sharing again? No?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's try again. Here we go. Are we sharing now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is what happens when you run back and forth from the Capitol. You're a little off. Sorry, guys. Okay, so what you're going to see once the form is emailed, now when I say you, again, it's whatever email address you put in option 1 or option 2, or what the applicant put in option 1 and option 2. You will get an email that looks just like the email I've copied and pasted and put it in this PowerPoint. There is a PDF attachment with the form. You or the applicant will need to print that off. There's additional instructions in the email about what happens next. So once you print that form off, you either submit it electronically, which I will go through in a second, or you can continue to mail it. If you're old school and you just love snail mail, you can still snail mail it with a check, but your results will continue to be slow. I'm just being very honest with you. So that's the thing is, if you want to continue to mail and use a check, that is still an option, but you are going to continue to have slow results. Slow results meaning a delay in how long it takes to snail mail to us. If there's any issues with the form, it's going to come back to you. And then it's going to have to be scanned and uploaded into our system once it gets here. So the electronic submission is a much faster, and it's tracked. It's tracked from the minute it leaves you electronically until you get the results. It is tracked in the system, so we know exactly where that request is. Once you get this email, you'll see the PDF attachment. This is the PDF attachment of the example that I had previously done for a child care facility. Your form, if you select either one of those radio buttons that I gave you, will say DCC ECE form up there on the top. You see this right here? It's important that it says DCC EC form because these results will all go to licensing as well as the information provided. It is a 2-page form, and the notary section is on the 2nd page, and it will again have to be printed and signed and notarized. Okay, so we're moving on to step 2. Let me just check the chat real fast and make sure I hadn't missed anything before I move on to step 2, and I will take questions at the end.
Yeah, Misha, I've been trying to answer several of them, so
Okay, great.
just trying to keep that updated.
And some of these are very DCC, I can't talk, specific. So Ashlyn, if your team will help us, like questions about facility number or licensing specialist, if you could help me with those, or your team could help, I would greatly appreciate that.
We got it, and I think that we answered that question for the facility number. If you'll just reach out to your licensing specialist, they should be able to get you that number.
Okay, great. Okay, so if we need to fill in something later in handwriting, will it be rejected? No, it will not. If you print it out and put something in handwriting on the form, it will still upload into the system, which I'm about to talk about.
Hey,
Okay.
Misha, just also, you did mention that we will still accept paper ones, but it would be greatly appreciated if you could put an email address on there. That is really, really helpful
Yeah.
to get the results back. But clearly, if that's not if you don't have one or you want to get them in snail mail, we can still do the mail. But an email address is awesome.
Now, we do plan on at some point phasing out the whole snail mail thing, but it could be a year, it could be 2 years. We really want to work with our providers and make sure that we have the process down and worked out all the kinks. But again, I'm going to reiterate what Miranda said. If you're using some old form, even though I've had the team scour the internet to try and take down every old form I can possibly find, but if you're insistent on using an old form, please do write in an email address on the form somewhere. Otherwise, you are not going to get the results via email, and somebody on my team is going to be calling and asking you for an email address. Okay, so now I'm going to go to step 2. This is the new process. Some of you have used it because it's been out there a couple of weeks now and available. We were not doing mass messaging because we were trying to, slowly change over, work through hiccups. So this is the new electronic submission. Again, if you get the PowerPoint, the link actually works. I'm not going to go there because I have screenshots. Now, what's really important, or what's really interesting is we found out as we've been playing with this, is we heard back from people, we don't have a scanner. Okay, so if you have an iPhone, you have the ability to just take a picture of the form and upload it electronically. Both the online form generator and the new QuickBase system are mobile friendly, which is great. So like if you don't have, you or your applicant can do this electronic submission. The issue might be payment. So if you typically pay for the central registry check, then you're going to want to do the electronic submission. If you usually make your applicant pay or you're not, or they don't have to pay because you're a nonprofit, then they could also do the electronic submission. But they can take a picture. You don't even need a fancy scanner app. Though I will say that I do like Genius Scan better because it puts it all in one document. So I do really like Genius Scan or some of the other apps on the phone to change a paper copy into a PDF or whatever you might call it. But you can just go to your phone and camera, take a picture, and upload it from your photo library into the online submission. So here's the website. Again, that link to online submission is in the email. It's on the Central Registry page. We will provide you with this PowerPoint, which also has the link in it. The link is live right there. You can Google Arkansas Child Maltreatment and it will take you right to the page. So there are easy ways to find the electronic submission, but this is what the page will look like. Once you go to electronically submit. So you've got your paper form, it's printed out, it's in front of you or the applicant, depending on who's submitting. And then again, you go to this page to do the electronic submission. Again, very important that you pick the right radio button. It is the same language as on the online form generator. So you'll either need to select the second one down or you'll need to select the fourth one down, which is your potential foster parent or a private organization includes. So that's your SPLAs and your TFCs. Now, all this information that's required on this page is tracked in our system so that we can find where the form is. We can see how many that you submitted for your organization. We have good tracking of everything that's coming into the Child Maltreatment Registry. And just so that you guys know, last year we processed 120,000 child maltreatment checks here at DCFS. And for the previous years, it was well over 100,000 child maltreatment checks. So just to give you an idea of the volume that the central registry unit is covering. You continue to scroll down, fill out some additional information. You'll see choose file. This is where you would upload the form. You have to upload the form. So we have to have the paper form uploaded. If you are a nonprofit and you do not want to pay for a registry check because you qualify as a nonprofit, the system, once you check you're a nonprofit, the system will ask you to provide proof that you are a nonprofit, and you'll have to upload that form. If you are required to pay, so the system is super smart, and I don't want to go through all the ins and outs of that, but if you are required to pay, meaning you are not your applicant is not indigent, and you are not a nonprofit, you are required to pay, it will take you to the payment screen. This is very much like Amazon or PayPal or anywhere else. It's going to take you to another website, but it's going to walk you through payment steps for credit cards and e-checks. The downside of this system is at this point, and we're probably not going to be able to change it until we go to a whole new system, is you can only pay for one at a time. So you can't hold all your central registry checks and pay for a batch. You're going to have to go one by one by one. So for some of your larger facilities that hire a lot of people, it might make more sense to do a snail mail with a check. But again, I would ask you to rethink that, because if you can't hire somebody until they have their central registry check, wouldn't it be easier to process them as they're coming in and just do that electronic payment? Again, up to you. There is a $1 processing fee, so $10 for the check, $1 for the processing fee. I feel like that's not bad. Snail mail is 41 cents, so $1 to get electronic submission and speed up your results by days and have a tracking ID on where your request is. So once you submit electronically, you will get an email. It gives you this ID right here. This ID is very important. If you haven't got results from us and you want to call, if you have to resubmit, Miranda, do you want to talk about resubmissions? You know, that's not my thing.
Yeah, if your form gets rejected for some reason, like for example, you don't upload all the pages and they reject it. We've had that here recently. Or if the credit card payment didn't go through for some reason and your form gets rejected, you can do a resubmission and it will ask you for this request ID. And that way the system doesn't think that there are two pending requests for that same person. They would be associated with one another.
And I went back up to show you this option on the electronic submission. It'll specifically say, is this a resubmission? So I just want to make a note. Hopefully there's no reason for you to be resubmitting. Hopefully we are not going to have as many rejections now that we have mandatory fields and the ability to upload and pay. But if for some reason you do have to resubmit, you don't want to start all over. You don't want to start all over. You just want to use this ID and do a resubmission on it. That's the other cool thing. You don't have to start all over. And so that's the email that you receive once you have submitted to Central Registry. Okay, so this is the super cool fun stuff. Super cool fun stuff. The results are electronic. Electronic. They're coming via email. They're going to go to Ashlyn and her team at DCC ECE, electronic. Not only are they going to come to Ashlyn electronically via email, Ashlyn and her team have access to our QuickBase system and can actually see every central registry request that was submitted on a DCC EC form. So if there's a question about did somebody fill out the form, or if there's a question about, I don't know, anything else, DCC ECE can go in and also track what's happening related to their forms. Because even though DCC ECE is a huge provider or customer, customer to us at Central Registry, they are not the largest. Arkansas Department of Ed is probably our largest customer. So anyway, the results are not only going to go to DCC ECE, they're also going to go to the applicant and the email address provided on that original form. It will come looking like an email like this with an attachment with a letter. There you go. If there's a true finding, those results will come out of our CRIS system. So they will also go electronically if there's a true finding. So it's exciting stuff. You can print this letter out, you can put it in your file. But if I was you, I would figure out a way to have an electronic case file, because I'm trying to kill all snail mail at DCFS. I have made that very well known. So maybe you can save it, download it, and upload it into your electronic case file or a licensing record that you keep for DCC ECE. And here's the end result. If you have questions, if you need help, here's contact information. You can always call me. Most of you guys know me. Y'all know how to get a hold of me. I did not put my contact information there, but I feel certain that y'all know how to get a hold of me. But if it's really central registry related, here's the contact information for Dennis Robbins and John Lowry.
We haven't seen that screen yet. We're still on the letter.
Because I have it in front of me, but not on the presentation mode. So here we go. Thank you, Miranda. I'm really glad you're on. Running around and coming together. I'm sorry I hadn't quite got it together this morning, but this is the contact information. I'm gonna look in the chat, and I'm happy to take any questions. I believe that John and Dennis are on, who are the real experts, in addition to Miranda, and we can take more specifics on this.
So a couple that I missed, I was trying to answer. Some folks had sent things private, so I think I missed a couple of questions on nonprofits. So we may want to address that one more time. There was one about, yeah, if we are a nonprofit, do we have to upload the nonprofit document each time we upload? And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the answer. Right.
Dennis worked on that. Dennis, can you, so in fact, they were able, Dennis, chime in here and help us. Oh, I don't know if he has the ability. Let me see. Hold on, Dennis. If you don't have the ability to chime in, let me find you. Because Dennis worked on
While you're looking for that, the question has popped up. Do we still have to do a state police check? Yes, this is absolutely has nothing to do with state background checks. This particular request is just for a child maltreatment central registry. And I'm sure, Ashlyn, I'm sure you all have lots of information on INA and state police checks and all that kind of good jazz.
And I just want to say again, this is all about process. This has nothing to do with who, there has been no change as to who gets a central registry check. This is just all about the process of how can we be a better partner to you guys and get you central registry checks faster so that you can get your staff to work. Dennis, I think you can unmute if you want to talk about the nonprofit situation and the system saving nonprofit.
Okay, yeah, there is a nonprofit list for DCC ECE. If you're not a nonprofit, you choose other and then enter your information. If you are a nonprofit and you're not on the list, if you'll get with us, we'll add you to the list. Just send us your proof and the name, address, phone number, all the information that you see on those lists, and we can add to those lists.
And he means a list in the QuickBase system. So some of the nonprofits are we went ahead and pre-populated them so that you don't have to do your nonprofit, like upload a nonprofit status. Some of them are pre-populated based on the list that we had. We worked with the IT team on that. But if you're not pre-populated as a nonprofit, you can, again, choose other and upload, but you're going to need to get with Dennis and team so that you don't have to do that every time. Dennis, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, yes.
Right. I see. What options do you choose for volunteers? If you are having volunteers at your residential facility, because I know there's several different types of providers on, so I just want to make sure it be clear. If it is a volunteer at your residential facility, go ahead and continue to choose employee of the residential facility. And that, like, are you an employee of a residential facility? That's the radio button that you will choose, and you will run it as an employee, even though they're a volunteer. If I'm pausing because I'm looking through questions, and Miranda, chime in if you see something while I'm looking.
While you're looking there, Musha, if I can just add one more time, I appreciate you guys so much from DCFS and the Central Registry helping us out today on our call. I just want to reiterate that what we've talked about today is only the child maltreatment process. So on your criminal, if you have to do criminal, state criminal, or if you have to do FBI, that is still through your INA subscription account. So nothing, like Misha said, nothing has changed. So whoever you've always run background checks on, you still need to do that. The INA system, remember, is all electronic. So state checks and FBI is not snail mail anymore. It's all electronic. Where we really appreciate this team in the Central Registry is now that also speeds up the results that we can give you, because, you know, we have to hold on the INA side until we get the clearance on the maltreatment side. And so if I can just take 3 seconds, Misha, if that's okay with you, to
Sure.
kind of tie that together for everybody, because our team gets calls from providers about how does that all work together. So what happens is on your INA, which by the way, you guys, the timing really kind of stinks, but it is the way it is. That acronym is changed to NIC. So if you ever hear somebody say NIC, just know in your mind they're talking about the INA system. I think NIC stands for National Information Consortium, if I'm remembering correctly. Same as INA. Processors are all the same. The phone numbers you call are all the same. Just a name change there. But we have to have in the NIC system, we would have, like, for most of you, it's a state check. So like if I was your employee, then I would show up in the NIC, it would say Ashland Abney. I would see, my team will see that Ashland Abney is cleared on the state side, but then we get the information from Misha. Even though the central registry is not tied together, central registry does not speak to NIC system-wise. And so Nora Fawcett's team, which is part of my team, they go in and handle that manually. So they will check to see if your central registry maltreatment check is back on Ashland Abney. If it's all clear, then Nora's team goes into the NIC system, adds in that information, and gives you guys the overall approval. So that's kind of how it works. I think we had just some misunderstanding out and about in the provider community that those systems are all reading together, and they're not. So to Misha's point, if you can do this electronically and speed up the central registry maltreatment portion of your background checks, then that is going to help you speed up your overall approval in your NIC as well. So I would highly suggest that you guys do this electronically instead of paper. But like Misha said, on the maltreatment piece only, you can still do regular postal mail if that is your preference.
Okay, so thank you, Ashlyn. And I see a few questions, and I know Miranda's answered some of them already in the chat. But there's a question about what is the time frame to receive results. So I'm not going to give you a time frame yet. We usually say 7 to 10 business days. As this is new, let me just tell you, the volume is still coming mostly through snail mail. So the more we get submissions electronically, the faster the time frame. So like an example, like in week 1, I'm just going to use the week 1 because I haven't pulled the numbers today, and Miranda or Dennis, you might have better numbers. But in week 1, we received about 800 central registry requests total. Of about that 800, only about 120 of them were electronic, which meant that the central registry unit still had to scan, upload, and process all this snail mail. So as more people use electronic and we get hopefully we get that completely swapped where there's more electronic, less snail mail, the time for processing for Dennis's unit should be much faster. In fact, Dennis and John's on too. Dennis and John are both like, we have to get more people to submit electronically so that our process is sped up and you can get results even faster. And Sam, I know Miranda answered this question for you, but Sam, I appreciate that your creative thinking, and I agree with Miranda's answer, but I wanted to make sure that the group heard. So if somebody does use the wrong form on the form generator, you can correct the situation when you input the information into the QuickBase system, as long as you fill out the information correctly and choose the correct radio button on the QuickBase or the electronic submission system. So that's a great idea. Thank you for thinking creatively. And Debbie, again, Miranda answered, but Miranda, I just want people to kind of hear these questions. So if you're running checks on staff, like you have foster parents and you need to run checks on their kids, again, just click employee or foster parent of a specialized private license agency. That will get you the right form, and it will get the results back to DCC ECE. You can just fill it out for the child. So those are all good questions.
Yeah, and along those lines, Misha, just letting the group know we are still making some changes to the form stack, to the electronic form. So there could be some changes, and I see a suggestion in here about the 6 years for the address. So we are still taking suggestions and making some changes. So it could look a little different the next time with some additional information or some additional fields. So just know that that process is still in the works. And I think Karen had a question about categorize our adoptive parents for domestic, for adoptions who are not foster care. I think that again, you'd still just choose you are a potential foster. You can put the, adoptive parent for a private organization. So you would still use that same bullet point, even though we didn't. We've had a lot of suggestions for these bullet points. And we're trying to make it as
Yes.
concise and as streamlined as possible.
They just keep getting longer and longer and longer and more wordy. And so we can add, why do you want, so from in Miller, I want to go back to the 6 years because we had some discussions. I need to understand why the recommendation is to go back to 6 years instead of 5, because I actually was the one who said, I want every central registry request form that's ever there. I think Dennis came up with 11 different forms that were being used to request central registry. And there was a mix of 5 and 6, and we even went through licensing requirements. So to N. Miller, I'd like an explanation of why you want 6 years and what reg requires 6 years. And somebody else asked for Dennis and John's email address, so I put them back up on the screen for a second. Oh, and Miranda put it in the chat, so I'm gonna stop sharing. Thank you, Miranda. Oh, and there's an out-of-state request. This is not about out-of-state requests, but I do want out-of-state central registry requests because DCFS does not do those. That's the DCC, ECE, and you guys. Y'all can talk about that. That's not me. But I do want to say that when we created the system to try and help DCC, ECE track whether out-of-state check is needed, there is a radio button on the QuickBase or electronic submission website, and it says, have you lived out of state in 5 years? It's really important that you or the applicant click that if they've lived out of state in 5 years, because Ashlyn and her team can run a report of every central registry request that comes in that the applicant lived out of the state in 5 years, so that they can work more closely with you. And I don't want to get into that process. Ashlyn, I know you want to chime in, but I just wanted to give a plug on making sure that you're clicking if you or the applicant is clicking if they've lived out of state in 5 years, so that DCC, ECE, and you as the provider can work more closely to monitor and track and make sure those out of state checks happen.
Michelle, I'm sorry, I was getting some information in the chat box for Nora Fawcett. Was there a question there? I'm sorry.
No, there wasn't. No, Ashley, I was just referencing that if they needed quite more specifics about what the process is for out-of-state central registry checks, that's between the provider and DCC, ECE, not through the central registry unit. But we are trying to track that and provide you that information so that y'all can work more closely together.
Exactly right. That's right. So that's why it's so important for you guys, if you are trying to hire somebody from out of state, that you do put those additional addresses on the form stack form, because that's the way my team will know whether or not we have somebody out of state. So that would be really good. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to Nora's team too. They have a whole process for out of state and should be able to walk you guys through that if that's a need that you have.
And I saw a couple questions from Connected Foster Care about one, if you're a nonprofit and you're not pre-populated, which I can't imagine y'all are not. Hold on one second. I'll check that while I'm talking. So one, get with Dennis Robbins. His email address is in the chat and it's on the PowerPoint that I'll share. And then two, the other question was from Connected on results should be released to section. Does the requester contact and email information need to be the person listed on the line? No, not necessarily. It does not necessarily have to be the person listed on the license for the facility. So like, I'm gonna use Sam. Sam, I hope it's okay if I use you as an example with Methodist, but we had a great meeting with him and he's apparently coordinating checks. And so it would make sense. I think he's in HR that his information gets put on the form so that he gets all the results. So you can put your information on there, your HR person's information, or if you're SLPA like Connected and you have a case manager that's working to open that foster parent, it could be that foster parent. It could be that case manager's information, whoever is maintaining that licensing file. So let's see here. I'm gonna see if you're pre-populated. I'm a very like do it right now kind of girl.
Ashlyn, I think the second part of that is does the facility number equal their license number? I think that's a question for you all.
Ma'am, it does. Your facility number is the same as your license number. Those words are used interchangeably. So it's all the same number.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, and I'm not seeing that. Arkansas Baptist, or Connected Foster Care, unless you're under Connected, let me check Connected. I'm not seeing that you're pre-populated as a nonprofit, so you'll want to get with Dennis Robbins on that. Yeah, I'm not seeing you as Connected Foster Care either. If you're a nonprofit, I assume you are, but okay. Do we need to know what states the applicant has lived in? So you should know what states the applicant has lived in, because when they fill out the online generator form, it says, where have you lived in the last 5 years? So just like the current central registry form, that's how we know, because they list every address that they've lived in the last 5 years, which is specifically why we went with 5 and not 6, because it made sense for several different statutory reasons to go with 5. So they should know based on the form what they filled out in the last 5 years.
Hey, I saw a question up there that I missed. So the question is, if we're having issues with the timeliness of results in the NIC system, who's the best person to contact? So for you guys, primarily the team member that handles requests for you guys is Cynthia Smith. But I want to go ahead and give you the whole chain. So any of these people would be good. And Paige, if you don't mind, you and Nora putting your email addresses in the chat box. That way these guys can have contact names of who to reach out to. So Cindy is the one that handles your requests. Next in line for her would be Nora Fawcett, who's the program manager over our background check unit. Next to Nora would be Paige Cox, who oversees many things, but the background check unit is one of them. And then next page would be me. Any of us, you can always reach out and ask your questions to. Your very best people in terms of timeliness getting back to you on your questions would be Cindy and Nora. They're the ones that could probably get to you the fastest before Paige or I could do that. So, but any of us, if you're having trouble, let us know. We'll be glad to help you out.
So I had a provider send me a private message, but I'm going to answer out loud because this is kind of exciting. They have still been submitting via snail mail, but they're getting their they're getting their results electronically, because probably somebody at Central Registry called and said, hey, will you give me an email address? And we already are, like, whether you submit snail mail or not, DCC ECE is going to get results electronically, because everything that goes to DCC ECE is going electronically now, whether you do snail mail or not. But say you snail mail and we call you and ask for an email address, because we really don't want to snail mail anything. And we want to get you your results faster, because we want that employee to start to work, because we don't want you to call and ask us to move our kids because you can't have an employee start. So what I'm saying here, though, they then ask, well, how do they make payments electronically? We'll go back to step 2, actually. If you want to make electronic payments, you have to do it on the front end and use our electronic submission. So again, that's what I just went over. You're going to have to, and again, if you're even using the old form and you hadn't converted to the new online form generator, which I'm encouraging you to do, but I'm also being real with you. If you're still using an old form, you can still submit through the online electronic submission website. But I'm really trying to encourage you, though not making it mandatory, that you use the online form generator so that we have the correct information that we need to properly process your maltreatment check. Okay, we are close to the Oklahoma border. If you hire somebody who lives in Oklahoma and has lived there over 5 years, which does not have a registry, do you still have to run a maltreatment Arkansas? Absolutely. It doesn't matter if they live in Arkansas or don't live in Arkansas. The law requires the central registry recheck both in-state as well as the state where either they work or they live. So don't forget that, you guys, too. I'm not trying to start some drama here, but it is not only where they have lived in the past 5 years, but it is also if they have worked in a state in the last 5 years.
Okay, I want to make sure I got an instant message, and I just want to make sure the whole group understands this. All of you all should be using an INA subscription account. You all should be initiating your state checks, and if you have to, your FBI checks through an INA subscription account. So we made that change back October 1st. And so I think everybody is doing that, but I just wanted to reiterate that for your state and for your FBI, if you have to do an FBI, all of those come through your INA subscription account. That's how you initiate and get the ball rolling for your state and your criminal checks. And then you do your central registry maltreatment via the system we've talked about today. And then Nora's team is the one that combines that all together for your overall results.
And Ashlyn, somebody's saying they heard 6 years. Okay, there was a question about 6 years. It's 5 years. The form says 5 years. The law says 5 years. The person who wants me to change it to 6 years, I've asked for clarification on why they want 6 years so that we can consider that. But it's 5 years. Sorry to confuse everybody. Let me also say that both our new electronic submission and our online form generator are very agile. And so we can make changes. So if there is something out there that is driving you crazy about it, and you have real justification and it's affecting more than just you, but go ahead and speak up, because if you think it's bothering you, more than likely it's bothering 5 other providers. So I encourage you to reach out to us and let us know, because we can do changes to the online form generator. Like, I'm probably going to add adoptive parent and not just foster parent, because that's going to confuse people. But, you know, so if there are suggestions to make this easier for you or the clients that you work with, I'm not promising that I'll make them, but go ahead and reach out to Miranda or I or Dennis, and so that we can at least consider them and to determine whether it makes the process better. Because in the end, we are doing this because we want to be more customer service friendly. So we want both the online form generator and the system to work for you guys and provide better, more timely results. Very technical question. What if they only worked online and didn't work in state? Well, I would reference you back to the law, because it just says worked out of state, and I would comply and get a central registry check. To clarify, if the regs 5 years, the only request is if the field could be mandatory, it would save time. Those are left most of the time. And Miller, I'm sorry, I'm not following that comment. You're gonna have to give me more. You might want to email me, because I think you have a lot of thoughts on that. So feel free to email Miranda or I with some additional thoughts, because I'm just not following. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just giving time to make sure that everybody asks questions. The problem we face is there's not really a requirement to list the 5 years. It only requests and is stated in very small print. Well, I don't know how to make people, like, there's no way for the system to make people comply with the last 5 years. I agree with you, Sam, that's a problem, but like, I can't know if you lived in 5 different places or 4 different places to make those mandatory fields, and they're not currently mandatory on the form. So, I mean, they're not currently mandatory on the PDF paper form that you have. So if you have suggestions on how to address that problem, I think that's really something. Honestly, we have the last 5 years on the form to be a support to licensing. It's not needed to run a central registry check, but it's a requirement for licensing. So to be a good partner to them, we continue to have it on the form. So, and it's an easy way for them to track and follow up. So I think that's maybe a conversation with Ashlyn and team. Continues to be a consistent issue about 5 years. Ashlyn, do you see this question about have all my approvals from central registry, however the criminal I do not? What's the problem?
Yeah, I saw that. So Dee, if you'll reach out to Nora and let her look at maybe the specific applicants you're talking about, I think that's the best way to handle that one. And I'll put her email address in one more time for you.
Okay, I am not seeing any additional questions related to central registry. So Ashlyn, I'm happy to turn it back over to y'all. Though I will say, if we have a couple more minutes, Becky Devigan's on the line, and y'all know Miranda and Dennis and John. So if it would be okay with you, Ashlyn, I'm willing to take questions related to DCFS for a minute since they have us all. It's just a great touch base. So if there's, is that okay, Ashlyn?
We have just a couple of minutes because we have actually another provider call at 10 o'clock with the childcare side.
Okay, perfect. There's a question again. There's another question about out-of-state checks, and so that's a DCC EC question. So I'll leave that one for Ashlyn and team.
Any out-of-state questions that you guys may have, again, just reach out to Nora's team. She'll be able to talk you through anything that you're concerned about or you're confused about. She'll be able to help you out there. Really and truly, I know I keep saying it, Nora, just forgive me, Nora, because listen, Nora's team has been fielding so many provider calls, you guys, and so they will get back with you. If you call and the phone's busy and it goes to voicemail, just know that they are on the phone with somebody else. And I think that that's to be expected right now as we're just changing through and learning the new systems. But really, if you have any questions about any of your background checks, Nora would be your person to call, and she can get you to the right person if she's busy herself. If you have any programmatic questions, so like who needs what, how long do I have to go back and look, Ebony Russ would be your best person to call on that one. So if it's about the background check itself, reach out to Nora. If it is about a programmatic issue, reach out to Ebony.
So just the last couple questions I'll take and I'll be done. So if your facility is not listed in the electronic submission, you click other and you add your facility. If you are a nonprofit and don't want to have to upload your nonprofit proof every single time, you call Dennis. But if your facility or program is not listed in the drop down, you click other and a box will pop up to the right and you add your facility name. Now, when I say you, that means you, the provider, or the applicant will have to do that as well. So if the applicant is filling it out without you, they will click other, they will type in Connected Foster Care or Arkansas Baptist Children's Home or whatever. And then the other question is, and I'm going to answer this for DCFS, and just to be very clear, I'm answering this question if you take foster care placements. If you take foster care placements from DCFS, all background checks have to be back before an employee starts. That does include out-of-state central registry checks. So again, if you take foster care placements from the Division of Children and Family Services before an employee starts, all background checks, including criminal, central registry, and if out-of-state central registry checks are required, those have to be back as well. Okay. Those are my last two questions.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this provider call. We appreciate all of the information. We have recorded this provider call, and we can send that out to everyone who's on the list that has participated. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions, just feel free to give us a call or an email.
And Ebony, I just want to say thanks to DCC ECE for setting this up and getting you all on, and you guys are amazing providers to us. So please let us know if you have any feedback. Thanks for working with us on this. Thanks,
yes,
Ashley
ma'am.
and team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.